Go get him, Jacob. Show her them albums.
Hello, welcome back. It is week 50 on Out on That Line. We made it all the way to 50. I'm Geoff with my co-host Alex. As always, Alex, how you doing this week?
Jeff, I'm a lot like this podcast in the words of ZZ Top. I'm big, I'm nationwide.
And episode 50, that's a big step for us.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm proud. I'm flattered that we've made it this far. You know, a year into this. Started out in the pandemic. Both gainfully employed now. Still trucking.
Yeah. Hey, so what was it? Yeah, August 2020, right? We started this?
Yeah. I think the inception was like July, late July maybe, and then we had a couple weeks where we scrambled to get some equipment together. And yeah, here we are.
Here we are. 50, thus doubling my life expectancy. You can't ask for much more than that.
And we did, there was a lot of episodes where we did 2 albums.
Yeah.
So we got to be at like 75 albums reviewed so far on the show. That's crazy to think about too.
Yeah. Because I think Bruce Springsteen was maybe 10 or 11. And he was the first solo we did. And then we were like, oh, wait, if we keep the show close to an hour instead of 2.5, more people might listen.
Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Let me go onto our anchor right here, and I'll just scroll back and I'll find out when our first. Yeah, because we were doubling up all the way through. Yeah, Springsteen was 10, but every episode before that was 2, and then we've had a few since then. If they were like shorter albums, like we did the Fiona Apple episode. Looks like track 18. Track 21 was Heather Trost and Shame way back when. Anderson .Paak and Yellow Days. Was that the name of that one? It's kind of cut off there.
Yes.
You got Foo Fighters, Childish Gambino. Those were both separate episodes, but with 2 albums each. So yeah, I'd say we got to be up above 75 or so.
Yeah, I think so. It must be. And I like when we do that. I like when we double up.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a nice little treat now. Instead of, it felt like a slog. For those first 9 episodes we did it felt like a little bit of a slog.
Well, Jesus, I guess we had nothing better to do, but when we would sit down and be like, we're going to talk about both albums in their entirety. Yeah. It's 2 45-minute albums. It's like, Jesus Christ, we went Broadway talking about these things.
Yeah, with just little tweaks here and there. Got them down to an hour. Pretty consistent with that now. Got a few of those kind of one-off episodes. The one you did with Tanner, the one I did with Tanner.
Yeah.
The 500 greatest albums, the best of 2020. We've had quite a run so far, my friend.
I think we've got a lot to be proud of and a lot to be ashamed of.
Yeah, well, we won't focus on that part. Okay. We'll focus on the things to be proud of, the things that we can brag to our family. That we are podcast hosts now. Doing it for a year, it's impossible to say we're not experienced at it at this point. Professionals, experts, maybe not. Experienced, for sure.
I get on Bumble and people say, what do you do? I go, I'm a podcaster, ladies. And they go, that guy's definitely not a huge fucking loser. I'd go out with him.
Hell yeah. I bet that room in his mom's basement is completely finished.
A white guy with a podcast? I've never encountered that before.
No, we're a rare breed. Something to be proud of, for sure.
Last of a dying breed.
Ooh, good Killers reference. I like it.
Why, thank you.
Yes.
Okay. I have something I want to bring to the floor.
Okay.
I'm just going to put it out there. I'm getting increasingly worried about the new Casey Musgraves album.
Buddy, I can't disagree with you.
Do you share my trepidation?
I do. I don't know what it is.
She's releasing so much behind the scenes content about it. Like, here's an Instagram story of the choir that I'm using. And I'm like, okay, so heavy use of a choir, heavy use of religious iconography, which doesn't bother me. I've gone on record as saying Lingua Ignota is one of the artists I'm most excited about these days. And everything like her content is about sexual assault. Her genre is industrial metal, and her iconography is like Holy Roman Empire era religious iconography. It's three things that don't go together at all that make her totally unique. So it's not like, ew, Casey Musgraves is using Jesus in her music, but it does seem like awful heavy on like the beatific suffering, and all this like imagery of her with like veils and shrouds and tears. And I don't want to say she can't talk about her divorce or it's not good fodder for an album, but I'm really worried it's going to hit one note, and that one note might be just like a really bummer listen. I hate to say that, but
I think best case scenario here is we end up with a like Sturgill Simpson Sound and Fury situation where it's unlike anything you'd ever heard from him before. But, you know, like when you really think about Casey Musgraves so far, those first couple albums, very country, like very, very country. Golden Hour, a lot more like kind of disco type feeling. Like High Horse was definitely not a country song, definitely country lyrically and, you know, kind of the sensibilities behind it. But musically, no, not at all. There was a few country songs on it, but it's like, you know, very much was a departure from that. You know, I'm sure it was kind of the same thing like when Taylor Swift broke away from doing straight up country music and became like the worldwide phenomenon she is. You know, I think that's kind of what happened, maybe to a little bit lesser degree with Casey Musgraves when she came out with Golden Hour. She became, you know, got outside of that Nashville kind of sphere, you know. But I'm hoping that, I don't know, I'm not saying I feel like it's kind of a little bit like assholey of me to like assume that she's not capable of doing something to the level that it looks like she's trying to do with Starcrossed. But I know what kind of task that is. I know how many people have tried and failed to do something groundbreaking like that. And I'm just a little worried. And I think it's fair to be worried. I do have confidence that she's going to come out with something great. So much confidence, in fact, that we already bought tickets for the Dallas part of the tour when she comes around. They went on pre-sale today. So we hopped on there and got them. So I'm confident that it's going to be good. I just hope that she hasn't like put the cart before the horse with everything else aside from the music and not focusing enough on the actual music and content of the album.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Music is catharsis, and it won't be a pile of crap, and I'm not afraid of a change in her sound. That would actually be very exciting. It's just, it's Hayley Williams syndrome. Like, that album was just beating a dead horse with the thematic content, and I know that's mean when someone's trying to purge a breakup from their system, but, you know, it has to also be consumed, and you have to get something out. You don't have to like it because it's personal to someone. Mm-hmm. And I love Casey Musgraves, and I don't want to be disappointed by something, but she's also just like doing so much. Like, I don't even think you can call it a visual album. I think it's an album, and then it's the Sturgill Simpson thing where it's the album, and then there's an accompanying like musical film. So it's Starcrossed the album and Starcrossed the film. And I'm like, you know, potentially that could split her attention and split her effort and kind of water down both. I really don't know. Hopefully she finished the album and went, this is cinematic as fuck, instead of from the onset being like, I need this to be visual. I need this to be musical. Because it could compromise something. I don't know. I don't want to be a dick. I don't want to sell the bearskin before the bear is dead. Yeah. But I'm a little, it's got shades of Prince's Black Album, Brian Wilson's Smile. I mean, Smile never got released, but it was just overproduced. The Black Album, overproduced. I'm worried that it's so personal that it might just be too many cooks spoiling the broth. I don't know, Jeff. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I see. I'm going to lean on my confidence in her as a songwriter, because in that regard, she is among the best of this generation. Her ability to just simply have those real like pop sensibilities that it makes the song sonically immediately appealing to you. But, you know, her lyrics are really incredible. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't know if there's a song I can think of where there didn't seem like there was 100% effort on writing the best song possible. Everything I've listened to by her has been great. She has those clever kind of funny songs like if you mind your own biscuits, life will be gravy, where it's like that very country sound, where she's not forgetting where she came from. And then she's got songs like High Horse in the video, which was just like this disco 70s rhinestone disco extravaganza. It was just very much like she's capable of a lot of things, and she's shown that. So I hope that what she's trying with this next album is in the realm of things that she's capable of and can knock out of the park like she has everything else she's done in the past.
Fingers and toes crossed. I want to believe. I'm a big believer in Casey Musgraves. I'm pulling for her. I'm hoping for the best, but I'm cautious. I'm more cautious than I thought I would be while we're staring down the barrel of this release.
Yeah, I think that she deserves... There are probably not a lot of artists that I think are capable of doing something like this these days. I think she is one of them. I might not have considered her as one of them that I thought would have tried it, but she's been nothing but great all the way through so far. She's knocked it out of the park, everything else she's done. So, I'm going to have faith that she's going to knock this out of the park. I feel like she's not one to do something that she knows isn't good. Like, she's a very self-critical person as well, which I think in this sort of situation can only help because it's going to keep you from going down paths that are a waste of time. So hopefully everything that she's doing for this next album all fits together as seamlessly as everything she's done before.
We'll find out September 10th. The truth will be revealed.
Yeah, we will find out. I'm excited for that concert. I'm excited this weekend. I'm going to see Coheed and Cambria for the first time in a few years.
Geoff, I didn't know you liked that band.
You didn't? Well, let me tell you a little something about Coheed and Cambria. What do we got? We got 45 minutes left on this podcast. I'll take up the whole time. We're supposed to do another album, but here we go. Sit back, sit tight, folks. So Coheed and Cambria is based on this story called the Amory Wars, in which these three siblings, well, not siblings, they got made into these monsters. A couple of them had kids together. That's where you hear the name Claudio. Okay, I'm done.
I was like, is he waiting for me to cut him off? I'm no. Or is this going somewhere?
No, I was like, you know what? I got to decide when this bit is done. It's not a strong bit.
That's all right.
It's good for what it is, but I can't go too far. We can't milk it too much.
No.
Then you turn into SNL.
Yeah, then it turns into my Frank Zappa bit.
Nicely. That was so smooth.
Swish.
that was like, did you coat that one in some lube before you slid it in there? Because didn't even notice.
Slicker than cum on a gold tooth, boy.
Well, this week we have an album that was a big release and maybe one that folks didn't think we were going to do. We're going to talk about Lorde, Solar Power. Just came out, like 3 weeks ago, a month ago, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah. July.
So very recently, Lorde being the artist that has, started out very young. How old was she when the first single came out? She's like 16 or 17, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So she's been around for a while, had some songs that I just really didn't like, overall I don't think I ever hated her, but was definitely not that interested in any of her music. But this album has been controversial. Not necessarily because of anything she said on the album or anything like that. She didn't make any make herself look bad or anything on this one. But I think because of people, maybe what they expected, this album wasn't exactly what they thought was going to get delivered to them. But having not been very experienced with Lorde, other than the songs that have been on the radio, I really... I ended up kind of liking this one. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to the listeners here. I think she's in that camp of people that we always talk shit about. But I think the themes on this album, maybe musically, it didn't speak to me tons all the way through, but thematically, it really did. I felt like it was one of those things where I just talked about Casey Musgraves being very self-aware. It seems like Lorde kind of has that sensibility as well.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there.
Okay.
I had a completely different reaction to this album. I can't say I hated it, but I think a grade of C, which is the average grade it's getting, is appropriate. If you look at critical reception, there are some people that are like, this is a revelation in pop music. It's nothing we've ever heard before. It's going to change the face of the music industry. And then there are some people that aren't super vitriolic about it, but they're like, whatever, it kind of came and went. And for me, this isn't that deep. It isn't that good. There really weren't any surprises. It started, I went into it with an open mind, because I think before this, I liked Lorde a little more than you. Greenlight, the first time I heard that, I was ready to run through a fucking brick wall. I was like, hey, ooh, there we go. This is Jack Antonoff doing what Jack Antonoff does best, and this is Lorde letting it all hang out. I can get behind this. Melodrama was a pretty good album. But there are just no surprises with this one. It was lackluster. And it wasn't even a flat line. It was like a steady drop off, because it started with all the goodwill with me. And then I'm like, okay, all these songs sound the same. Okay, now I'm getting mad because I'm reading the lyrics and I made the mistake of reading her behind the scenes notes on stuff. And this idea that she's self-aware, she's in my, I don't want to say like, no, Geoff, you're fucking wrong. My interpretation of it, she has zero self-awareness, because she says things that contradict what's in the music to a frustrating degree, to the point where I was like, our favorite dirty word, authenticity, none of this feels authentic to me.
Okay.
So that's where I fall on this one.
And I felt like you were going to like this one less than me. I think because I know that you're more, I never assumed you were a big like Lorde fan, but you overall listen to a lot more just varied kinds of music than I do. I tend to just kind of go back to the same bands, and once in a while I'll throw something new in there, but I think you do a much better job at, kind of just expanding what you normally listen to, always trying out new things to find new things that you like. So this one for me, because I didn't really know about her, and I really kind of had a bad opinion of her just because of who she associated with. And I got to tell you, seeing Jack Antonoff's name all over this one was not a hot start for me. But I know she's part of that like Taylor Swift clique. I don't know if she is anymore. I don't really keep up with if there's drama between them or anything. But, I feel like what I ended up doing was grading this album on a curve, because I felt like I was going to give it a very difficult test, because I was like, you got to come with it if you're going to get me to even like this album at all. And I think I understand where you're coming from with it, where it didn't surprise you at all. But for someone that went into it expecting not to like it, I think the reaction I had, it made it more extreme. Like the fact that I didn't hate it, I was like, well, maybe I like it then. If I'm not sitting here like pissed off that I'm listening to it, I don't think it's one that I'm going to go back and like listen to a ton of times again. But it was certainly better than I thought it was going to be, better experience wise than I thought it was going to be. Not that I got anything super groundbreaking out of it, but to me, I was just like, it's just pop music. It's just like the same kind of stuff that like Billie Eilish is doing, maybe to a less interesting degree. But it's just like, it was fine. And because I was expecting to hate it, fine seemed pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. That's absolutely fair, because this was the reverse for me. I had Haim syndrome, where I'd heard there was Lorde that I liked more than you. I liked Haim. And actually, my opinion of Women in Music Part 3 has elevated as time has gone on. And I didn't hate it. I was just like, So whereas you had no expectations, mine were set a little higher. So you could only be pleasantly surprised. And there was a distinct possibility that I would be disappointed. And I was disappointed. And
yeah,
Haim, my opinion of them as people didn't change. My opinion of Lorde as a person is significantly damaged after this. She's a fucking shithead, dude. As much shit as I give Lana Del Rey, like, Lorde is just as bad.
What is she, only like 22 or 23?
24.
Still? Yeah, I mean, she's still like, not that that's an excuse, I guess, but I know I was a shithead in my early 20s. You knew me. I did not make the greatest decisions.
Same here, but like, by that same token, you invoke the name of sweet baby Billie Eilish. Someone like her, that whole album, Happier Than Ever, had this kind of theme of life in the gilded cage, and I'm not complaining. I'm giving you insight. I don't buy it from Lorde because she has this ironic detachment from celebrity, from the music industry. She shits all over California but says she loves it. Lives 6 months out of the year in New Zealand with her family and friends doing whatever she goddamn pleases. So she is not trapped in a gilded cage, but she wants you to feel bad for her like she is. Pick a fucking lane, because the criticism that she offers in this album feels forced, and the criticism of ordinary people that she offers in this album is downright mean fucking spirited. The shit that she says about goop girls, people who like crystals and meditation and stuff like that. There's a lot of talking out of both sides of her neck. And I might get a little saucy in this one, Geoff. I hope no one mistakes my intentions for misogyny, as I've been accused, because I dare be critical of Nifty Swifty.
Well, I personally enjoyed the absolute shots across the bow she was firing at all these crystal waving, spiritual Instagram story posting individuals that she's clearly calling out here. Because to me, like, that kind of culture, it sucks. Like, you want to bring crystals around me, I'm like, they're just rocks to me. Like, it's, if that's what you need, it's like really any religion in general. Like, if that's what you need to find fulfillment and become a good person in your life, fine. But I just find that particular brand of spirituality to be very frustrating in that I feel like it's so based on, with the crystals, it's like you're putting your spirituality in things outside of yourself, and I think if you do that, you're always going to be chasing something. So you're always going to be susceptible to falling for something new, whatever the newest, latest, greatest thing. Like, crystals have always been around. I'm sure there's people that have always practiced it, but until the last 5 years or so, did you ever see it on social media? Unless you were specifically looking for it. It's like, I can't scroll through my Twitter feed without seeing horoscopes everywhere, and it's, it's just the kind of thing where it's like, if you base, your life on those things, if it's just part of who you are and part of making you want to become a better person, and that's the catalyst that you have to be able to spark that change, fine. But to only rely on those things to kind of guide your path and light the way for you in your life on this earth, instead of trying to find some of that spirituality within and doing the things that you really believe in and really feel for. I don't know. It just, that seems to me very hollow. So when she calls it out, I didn't see it as like, kind of someone smacking down on the little man. But to me, I was just like, you know what? Hell yeah, Lorde. Like, sing it, sister.
But it's fair to say that crystals and astrology and all of that, a personality does not make. It shouldn't be a personality. You're 100% right. And if you're looking for these things to tell you what to, well, I couldn't possibly take that job because Mercury's in retrograde. I think that's kind of stupid, but, other people think Christianity's fucking stupid and believing in the man in the sky is stupid. So, we get into yucking somebody else's yum. The problem I have with Lorde doing this is the entire album, Solar Power, is about her returning to nature. And, let's turn away from celebrities and let's put our faith in the natural universe, which is what the fucking crystal hippies are doing. Lorde just doesn't wear a piece of lapis lazuli around her neck and hope it stops her periods. Let's all focus on the moon and kill Donald Trump. Like, I get it. It's ridiculous. But Lorde acts like she's above it. But she's not. She's talking about it just in different terms. Maybe there aren't products associated with the principles she's talking about, but it's the same thing. She just isn't using sage. She's not smudging. So, I just find it kind of disingenuous to be like, this album is about a return to the earth, man. But you're stupid if you use a fucking all-natural tampon. Like, it bothers me. It's a little hypocritical. So I'm with you. If you want to smack around the very memeable astrology people and yourself because you are one of them, fine. Nothing I love more than self-awareness and taking the piss out of yourself. But she's acting like she's above it all, and that really fucking bothers me.
Well, that's fair. That's a completely... I didn't have that viewpoint when I was listening to it, but that's, I think, a pretty valid thing. I always get told when I like say that all that stuff is bullshit. They're always mostly fiance of the pod. She'll always say, "Oh, you're such a Leo," and I'm like, I can't win. Like everything I do is like my biggest problem with those, and we got to get into the album here, but my biggest problem with what really grinds my gears about that stuff
Go off,
is
King.
all of those horoscopes and predictions are so vague that it doesn't matter what happens to you. Like they will always retroactively fit to what is happening to you that particular day. The language is always left so vague that you can't help. Uh-oh. Fiance of the pod, Marla, is giving me a menacing glare.
Oh, no. Pull up, Geoff. Pull up.
she feels personally attacked.
Oh, my God.
This.
I'm so glad she couldn't hear me. I would get disinvited from your wedding.
Oh, I'm sure I'm going to have to hear about this later. But let's move on.
Can I say one more thing about astrology real quick?
Yes.
I will say I am extremely glad I'm a Scorpio, because every time you tell a woman you're a Scorpio, you're instantly 1 point hotter. They're like, oh, so you're a sex demon psychopath. And I go, no, I'm probably the most disappointing lay in the world. And I hate myself, but okay, if you want to think I'm some kind of mysterious sex demon, then okay. Whatever gets me to take you on a date to Panera Bread Company, madam. That's all I got to say about that.
Well, we've got a select 6 songs that we're going to talk about today. So as usual, we're going to start with the first one. It is The Path. It is actually the opening song on the album and is one of your picks.
This kind of carries over what we were talking about. So the theme of this song is that celebrities are not to be idolized. They're not gurus. They don't have the answers. We should look to nature. To which I say, well, I didn't plan on idolizing you, Lorde. There's nothing you can offer me, unless it's hair care tips for a wild little hobbit. But it's a worthwhile notion that we shouldn't place so much faith in celebrities and, by extension, politicians and charlatans and stuff like that. That's great. But this is also a song where she talks about like going to the Met Gala and, oh, it's so superficial and boring. And I stole a fort because I'm such a fucking iconoclast and a rebel. And it's what I hate. It's a shitty look to trash people for what you're doing, ironically, just because they don't do it with a drop of irony. So this idea like, oh, poor little rich white girl forced to go to the Met Gala. It's like, let me tell you something. You do have a choice. You didn't have to go there. You could be like, well, her label put pressure. Listen, Phoebe Bridgers is a phenomenon, and nobody makes Phoebe Bridgers go anywhere she doesn't want to go. You do have a say in the matter. You absolutely do. Case in point, she lives in fucking New Zealand half the year on her off time that she sets for herself. So she is kind of making the rules here. So to act like, oh, I don't have a choice, it kind of destroys her entire argument. So in terms of the themes, I find this song incredibly disingenuous. I tried to find nice things to say about the music. I like how the hippie vibe you get from the harmonies. They're very chill. Too bad she has a low opinion of hippies, but I like the chill harmonies. I like the guitar distortion, the very coastal, laid back, like heavy, like floating face down in a pool on a hot day. I like that. And this is a good compromise from her old sound to her new direction. So as the nexus from melodrama to where this album's going to go, hey, great. It's a step down dose. So it does some things very well musically. It's infuriating lyrically.
So I think the difference between the two of us on this one is those expectations that we had. Because I really didn't think this one was that bad. The opening line, born in the year of OxyContin, I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
It's like very overwrought. But like the rest of it, I found it just like cheesy. I'm in a cast at the museum gala, fork in my purse to take home to my mother, supermodels all dancing around a pharaoh's tomb. I think you're right. And it's like, you are participating in that, so it's like, how much can you really say that's bad about it? You know what I mean? But to me, I just didn't think that deep into it. And I was just like, okay, well, the message is good here. Like, don't look to other people to define yourself and to like set you a path. Like, sure, look up to people, people that have accomplished what you're trying to accomplish, and maybe see some points along that path you can have in common. But this idea that it's like you should live your life by them, is definitely a very strange thought, and something I don't think people should do. So I thought what she was singing about in this song, the message was good. I did not like the music that much. I felt like a lot of this album, I liked the message a lot more than I liked how it was delivered. But I think because I didn't really think into it that deeply, I was immediately just kind of like, not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So immediately it was like my walls were down a bit on this one. So I didn't really think that critically, other than just the insane amount of Jack Antonoff songs that we've listened to on this podcast.
Yeah.
And I don't understand. Like, I guess he probably just knows how to network and knows how to put things together and knows how to market, is probably his like strongest suits. 'Cause there's so many producers that make far, far better music than he does. I mean, far better. Even his solo stuff. He was in Fun, right?
He was in first band. Fun and Bleachers.
In Bleachers, right? Yeah. And I just didn't like, Fun was okay, I guess. There was a couple songs that I thought were okay. Just because I think the lead singer of that band had like just a powerhouse of a voice. So it's kind of hard to deny like the talent there. But then Bleachers, I really thought sucked. I didn't really hear anything by them that I thought was any good. And then basically everything he's done that we've listened to, and it's a lot. He's got his fingerprints on a lot of the stuff we've listened to. Like, I just don't think he does a good job production wise.
I think he sucked the bag on this one in a big way. Because again, he worked with her on Melodrama. He worked with her on the song Green Light in particular, which again, I was like, damn, okay. I like this way better than, I think it's called Team. Or like Royals is an earworm, but in terms of like the quality of it, you hit a point of diminishing returns. I hit a point of diminishing returns on Mumble girls like Lana. Mumble boys, too. I mean, ever since Kurt Cobain, and everyone else that's been trying to do it is trying to imitate Kurt Cobain. Every movie that came out after Pulp Fiction for 5 years was trying to be Pulp Fiction. So you hit a point of diminishing returns on this kind of thing when people are doing it. Drives me a little nuts. So like Jack Antonoff, every now and then the blind squirrel finds a nut, and I know Tanner loves him. And Tanner's mad at Lorde because apparently Lorde was like, Jack Antonoff is getting too much credit for my songs. That's not a very good New Zealand accent. But he's mad. He's like, oh, Lorde was talking shit about Jack Antonoff. And it's like, hot take, Jack Antonoff sucks.
Yeah.
And Bleachers, there's like one or two songs I like. Bleachers sucks. I think Fun kind of sucks. Yeah. So I have very little in way of faith in Jack Antonoff, and I think he sucked the bag on this album.
Yeah, and I'm not going to go to the mat for Fun by any means. They've got like 2 songs I think that were pretty good. But the rest of that first album they came out with, I just was like, it's just like every other. Yeah. It's like when that Somebody That I Used to Know song absolutely took over the planet. It was like that right around that same time. It's just songs that just kind of passed by. They were big and then they passed by, and somehow Jack Antonoff stuck around. Out of all of that, in that like moment in music culture and like indie music culture, Jack Antonoff is the one that stuck around. Like somehow, some way. I guess you can't get rid of cockroaches even in a nuclear apocalypse.
And I know very little about him as a person other than he dated Lena Dunham, which there's a big smudge on his character right there.
Yes.
Like, why would you do that?
The judgment is poor.
I would have more respect for you if you dated Kim Jong-un's sister.
Well, at least then you seem a little dangerous,
Yeah, I got to be honest. If she was like, listen, I'm going to take an American bride and it's you, baby, I'd be like, ha, okay. Yeah. Pyongyang sounds nice this time of year. Powerful women. Love it.
Yeah, who needs the internet?
Yeah, fuck it.
Fuck it. Who needs McDonald's? I don't. Not me.
I'm going to be so cut.
All right. What do you say we move on to Solar Power?
Yeah.
The title track from the album. So this was one that I chose strictly because of the lyric, I'm kind of like a prettier Jesus. Now, I wasn't going along with you too much when you were talking about how disingenuous she is on the rest of the album. But this particular line right here, I'm like, come on. Like, I thought the year Born in the Year of Oxycontin line was a little much. This one, just absolutely outrageous. I don't know if I've ever heard a lyric that had more ego put into it than this one here.
Here's the thing. It's all about context. If this was a self-deprecating song and it was a sarcastic toss-off like, oh, I'm kind of like a prettier Jesus, then it makes total sense. And it's a good line. But in the context of like, this is a song about returning to the earth and let's all just take our power from the sun. And if we all focus our energies on Jupiter, then we can destroy war forever and blah, blah, blah. It's that kind of song. And she's talking like she's some kind of revolutionary. But there again, the juxtaposition of these two songs, The Path and this. The Path is celebrities are full of shit, don't trust them. And now she's comparing herself to a leader, an ideological leader. So which is it? Are you full of shit just like the rest of them? Or are you a special fucking... Are you the exception that proves the rule? That's what I want to know. What's going through your little hobbit head there, Lord?
And this one, the reason I picked this one also, other than that lyric, is I think, it being the title track of the album, tends to be the one that a lot of people focus on. And I don't think this one was the strongest effort on the album. There was certainly a couple other songs on this one. And overall, I didn't mind the album. Like, it was fine. It was just a lot better than I thought it was going to be. And therefore it seemed even better than that. Just because if you're comparing it to trash and it doesn't look or smell like trash, at least to me, then it must not be trash. And in fact, something completely different, and Solar Power to me was one of the glaring examples of like, oh, this is why I didn't listen to her before, was because she made songs like this.
Yeah. And to that end, we can get off this one, but I want to offer a couple lines from reviews that I liked. Overprivileged solipsist perspectives. And for those that aren't aware, I don't want to mansplain solipsism to you, but it's basically the concept that only our minds can be trusted, and that's the only reality, is what's taking place in your head. Everything that you're observing may or may not be real. It's real to you, but it may not be objectively real. So it is a very egotistical, self-centered philosophy, which makes a ton of sense for Lorde, and I'm glad someone else picked up on it. Another quote, this seems to take pride in its lack of ambition. And finally, it's a tired old story, hearing about a rich white woman discovering crystals and then raving about the planet, peace, and love. And if I'm being totally honest with you, reading all of that and listening to this song made me rethink my rave review about Daddy's Home, St. Vincent, just a little bit. I still like the album. I bought it on vinyl. I enjoy it. But I'm not going to sit here and say she's not full of shit for doing songs like fucking Living the Dream. Like, I'm sorry, I'm a little over this idea about like we can affect nature because we're so fucking awesome and we're so dialed in. Yeah. It's like, again, which is it? You're full of shit like the rest of us, or you're a goddess. You got to pick a lane.
Yeah. And I think it might be when you're at this level of celebrity, it's like you're not living in real life. You're not living in, I suppose you're living in your real life, but that's a very rare kind of life. There's not a lot of people, probably a few dozen that live on the level that she does in that sort of sphere in this country anyway. Probably several more than that around the world. But, I think it's, this song just, I don't know. It really struck me. I was like, okay, I need to talk about this one because I'm going to say good things about the rest of it. And I need people to know that it's like, I'm still at least have somewhat of a critical eye here, and this song was just, I don't know. Every line was just like, there wasn't much about it that I liked. Really kind of nothing, it was like, I understand the message and what she's trying to say, but it was a little strange. I'm like a prettier Jesus. I mean, it's like Jesus was a babe. I mean, let's not beat around the bush here. It's like giving yourself a lot of credit. People followed him. Do you think it was because he had good ideas?
No, it's because he had an ass you could chip a tooth on.
Yeah, that man was ripped. That man had a big ol' handsome beard, long flowing locks. I mean, he was a pretty man. Like, let's not beat around the bush here whatsoever. Saying that you're prettier than Jesus, that's saying a lot.
That's literal sacrilege.
That is sacrilege. Well, let's move on to California, which I'm sure is going to be another one that you have some great things to say about.
I'm sure. Well, so to set it up, I was intrigued by this lyric, and I got to say it because I got to give a shout out to the great Carole King, whom I respect immensely. Tapestry, fucking landmark album. Once upon a time in Hollywood, when Carol called my name, I stood up, the room exploded, and I knew that's it. I'll never be the same. Which is, of course, referring to her winning 2 Grammys back in 2013. And that was her rocket to the top. So California is a song acknowledging, California, you made me what I am. You gave me my fame and fortune. I didn't do this in Auckland, New Zealand. I didn't do this in Queensbury. I didn't do this in Kookaburra. I think that's in Australia. But California, Hollywood is the mecca for the star-making vehicle. So California made you a star, but then the song becomes, yeah, it helped me become who I am, but fuck off, Hollywood, you suck. And I'm like, yes, we know Hollywood sucks. Tell me something I don't know. Either make this entirely complimentary, entirely damning, but these backhanded compliments about a place that helped you become who you are is, again, this wishy-washy, fence-sitting, hypocritical bullshit that drives me nuts. I also fucking hate the line that she gave in an interview, actually. So she's got this line in the song about kids standing in line for the new Supreme. And she says, I'm going to do my shitty accent, and I really love the line about the kids in line for the new Supreme. It's a classic me thing to say. It's something that's modern, but could also sound classic. First of all, leave the fucking hype beasts out of this. What did they do to you? Their lives are pathetic enough as it is, waiting for a fucking $200 sweatshirt. But that's such a classic me thing to say. Something that's modern but could sound like it's classic. Fuck all the way off. The high opinion she has of herself, Geoff. It galls me, sir. It galls me to my core.
Yeah, this was not one that I picked. I was going to be happy to talk about it because you picked it. But yeah, this one, just talking about the kids, and I believe me, I'll be the first to line up. They line up for their Supreme. I'm the first to line up to talk shit about them. Because I just think I love my Air Maxes, but I'm not going that far into it. You know what I mean? I'm not spending that kind of money on something just because of name brand. So I certainly was on board with that. But again, this was one of those songs where it's like, I don't necessarily agree with you on the rest of it, that she was totally disingenuous on everything. But on this one, yes, I will absolutely agree with you, because it's like, well, you're acknowledging that California did some great things for you. But like, don't act like this is just a long lost lover that you're never going to be able to talk to again. You like pine for those good times. It's like, no, you're going to be going back there again and again. It's not as if this is some sort of really truly strained relationship. Like, it did, being in California is what launched your career. That's where you got those awards, was in LA. And it's just like, fine, talk shit about it, but don't act like it's like, oh, we had our times, but now it's time to move on and into something bigger and better. And it's like, no, that there's no way to exist really as a celebrity and a musical artist at this point, be big in the United States, if you're not somewhat based in LA or New York. So like, don't act like this is something you're going to have to give up totally and that you're making some sort of stand, because it's like, we know you're going to be back.
Oh, yeah. You'll come crawling back when it's time to make your next Jack Antonoff peanutty turd. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that one.
Yes. So we have Stoned at the Nail Salon. Really putting it right out there with that song title on this one.
My first note on this says, Lana Del Rey, is that you?
Yeah.
That's such a Lana Del Rey title.
Oh, yes.
Hot take, this was the closest thing to a good song and the one that was the closest to me enjoying it on the album for a very specific reason. So we'll do a reverse compliment sandwich, and we'll start with the shitbread first. She has said that this is a weed album, and I'm obviously not going to sit in judgment of weed people when I smoke weed myself. However, see also Kevin Smith, talented filmmaker who found weed and lost his way. Because when you're that fucked up all the time, things that seem like a fully formed idea to you may turn out to be half-baked. So to say that this was an idea that weed birthed this album. I believe you, but it's fucking lame. It wasn't what you thought it was when you were putting it together. So to give Weed all the credit is to make Weed take all the blame. And the other end of the shitbread here is this whole thing's got a message of like, well, golly gee, did I make the right choice to become, in her words, a domestic hippie? First of all, you hate hippies, but you say you are one. So, gee, did I make the right choice to get out while the getting was good and live a life of freedom? You just got done talking about how California is alien and superficial. So which is it? You regret leaving? You regret not having your finger on the pulse? Or you're happy you did it and you live a life of freedom? It cannot be both. Pick a lane, one of the other themes of this album. Now, I will say, the compliment in the middle of this reverse compliment sandwich is she is clearly scared of becoming irrelevant, but she cannot say it outright. I really, really like that underlying idea if she could express it outright. She's letting the music do it the way that it sounds. The music is doing the heavy lifting and letting you see that there's regret, there's questions. You know, she's sitting bleary-eyed and stoned at the nail salon just trying to zonk out and meditate, and she can't catch these thoughts because she's high, so it's just creating an inner anxiety. She's scared of becoming irrelevant and wonders if she made the right choice. I love that if she would commit to it and say it outright.
Yes, and this, I actually, in my notes, I think I wrote on this one, I was like, this may be the best song on the album. You know, and I think musically it was good.
Yeah.
You know, which is not something I usually say about Jack Antonoff produced stuff. But, you know, she had a couple lines in here, like, because all the music you loved at 16, you'll grow out of, and all the times they will change, it'll all come around. I don't know, maybe I'm just stoned at the nail salon again. You know, it's like those thoughts where it's like, this was that self-awareness that I was talking about, where it seemed like, you know, she had it going on this album. And maybe a lot of other parts of the album, she didn't have it, but on this one, she does. You know, on this one, I think if she had expounded on these ideas and where this song came from and made this the real, like, genesis of the album, was this style of songwriting and this style of kind of expressing herself, I think it would have made it from an album that I was like, yeah, it's okay, to an album that I really, really enjoyed. You know, because if all the songs were like this one, you know, I think we'd be cooking with a different recipe here for sure.
I completely agree. Yeah. More of this, less of bullshit like the next song.
Wait, you didn't like Domino's?
I wish it had been about pizza.
This song just seemed to me, this was one of my picks. This song just seemed to me like probably the most forced one.
Yes.
On the album, you know, and I don't know what gave me that sense. I think musically it like clearly was trying to be this kind of like little dancey acoustic kind of song. And I don't think it landed, you know, it's like musically fine. Sure. Like it was pleasant enough, you know? But it's just like, didn't really strike me as that great lyrically. And really was actively pretty bad lyrically. But it's just like, it could have been so much better. And it just seemed like so much of it was like, they just took a lot of ideas and were like, these are all good ideas. Let's put them all together. And it's like, okay, well, chocolate ice cream is great and spaghetti sauce is great. But, you know, putting spaghetti sauce on my chocolate ice cream, I don't think it's a great idea. And that's what I feel like they did with this song.
Yeah, that's some Tom Brady shit right there. That's some TB12 bullshit. Yeah. The problem I have with this one is exactly what you're talking about, where it just feels like an idea that got tossed out there without any self-reflection, because it's essentially talking about a guy that she knows. It doesn't sound like someone she dated. It's just a guy, and we'll go ahead and call him a shitty dude. Why is he shitty? What did he do? We never figure that out, which is part of the problem, because he's someone that demonstrated some level of personal growth. Whether it's genuine or not, hard to say. We're going only from Lorde's perception, which is, oh, well, now he's into yoga, he's into meditation, transcendental meditation, he's into crystals and healing and all of that, and that's a bunch of bullshit. So again, I say, okay, you're doing the same thing, you're just not invoking, again, the physical properties of crystals and shit, but it's the same nature-based spirituality shit. You're calling it bullshit when he does it, but it's righteous when you do it. You got to pick a lane. So she basically comes out and says that this kind of faux spirituality does not constitute self-care. It's just toxic masculinity. And I'm like, okay, so then we agree goop and crystals and astrology and worshiping the sun are bullshit. It's a scam. So you admit that, but you also aren't saying, yes, I'm part of the problem. You're better than that? It drives me fucking nuts. She's allowed to reinvent herself as a hippie, but anyone else that does it is bullshit. And all we're saying is, oh, this man hurt a woman. Well, how did he do it? Was he a Louis C.K.? Was he a Harvey Weinstein? Was he a Don Draper? Was he just kind of a dick to somebody? And if it was a non-egregious offense, I don't want to go full MGTOW here. Men go their own way. But if he was just kind of a shithead, why doesn't he deserve the benefit of the doubt and the opportunity to change? If he's a rapist, fuck him. He deserves to be in jail. But if he's just a guy that ghosted someone, does he get written off forever? You know what I'm saying? It's just like she's got these wild all or nothing positions. No shades of gray. No nuance, no subtlety, and no explanation. She's just kind of dashing off like a men are trash thing. And I'm like, hey, I love a good men are trash song. I do. I genuinely do. But this is just lazy. This is fucking lazy.
Mm-hmm.
And hypocritical.
Yeah. And I don't know. It just feels, I really, the hypocritical thing, I don't know if I get that so much, but it's just like definitely more of that kind of punching down on somebody, and it's like, again, like you're saying, if it's something that he did something that was like illegal to somebody, you know what I mean? Or like emotionally something very damaging to somebody, then or physically very damaging, that would be illegal. Like the emotion, if it was like emotional abuse and that sort of thing, like that's a big problem. And that's something in our society that has presented an issue for far too many people. And, if that's the case where he like ruined somebody's life, that's a problem. Yes. Talk that shit about him. But if it's, the other possibility that you're talking about where it just like didn't work out, maybe he was a little bit of an asshole about it, but it's like, does that constitute you writing a whole song about how shitty he is? It's like, I don't know. I mean, I guess you write about whatever you want, but it's, it's tough to really take it seriously when you don't get context for why they're talking about this. And I suppose that's the artist's prerogative, whether they want to offer you that context, and that's okay. We're not saying that's a requirement, but if you want us to follow along and be there with you in these songs, you have to throw some crumbs out once in a while to get us to understand a little bit of where you're coming from with this, so that maybe we can understand why this song exists and why you're writing it this way. Because to me, it's just like you want to talk some shit about somebody, but we don't know why.
Yeah.
It could have been a mutual thing that you're both shitty to each other. And it's like, we're only hearing one side of it.
Well, in our famous Lost episode where we did Vince Staples and Lucy Dacus, the Lucy Dacus song Christine was extremely specific about the ways in which this guy was a disappointment. And he wasn't a sex pig. And he wasn't some kind of like emotionally manipulative son of a bitch. He was just lame. He was a fucking lame-o, and she was settling for him. And Lucy Dacus articulated that. There's that great line about like her friend clearly wants to have kids, but she looks at this guy and wonders, is he going to make her a mother? And Lucy Dacus isn't being like, oh, this guy's a horrible scumbag. He's just kind of a fucking lame-o. And she articulates that well, and you take that ride with her. Whereas this one literally just sounds like her she's admitted she's a fan of Mad Men. It sounds like she watched the Mad Men finale and decided Don Draper was full of shit and could never change, and thought that was a good idea for a song.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate to tell you, but people can change and people can grow. Men and women and everybody in between and outside. Everyone across the spectrum can change. Some individuals are not capable of change, but people on the whole are capable of it. It's whether or not they decide to be. So this fucking idea that like, fuck it, he's written off because he decided that self-improvement to him meant he was going to become a hippie. That's so fucking unnecessary.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it goes back to like what I was saying. Like if what you're doing and what you're choosing to do is genuinely to make you feel like you're becoming a better person, You know, it's like use whatever you want. The Bible, crystals, the Quran, whatever authors, it doesn't matter. If you're not hurting anybody else, then it doesn't matter. If you're actively becoming a better person, then it doesn't matter. You know, but I think it's like, you know, it's a little weird when you do participate in those same things as well, and yet you talk shit about them. That's where it's like, come on, like, what kind of perspective do you have on this situation where it's like you're allowed to do it, but they're not? And I'm sure she's done some shitty things to people as well. We all have, you know, intentionally or not. You know, we've all done something that was emotionally upsetting to somebody at some point in our lives. You have to have zero human interaction for your entire life to not have fallen into one of those situations. And it's how you handle it afterwards that really tells who you are as a person. And, you know, if all the people she's talking about are trying to make positive changes in their lives, and whether they're failing or not at making those changes doesn't matter. The effort is what matters. And, you know, it seems like gives herself a lot of credit for making that effort. It doesn't seem to give anybody else the credit for making that effort.
And real quick, this is a very different argument than the classic, well, if you're a socialist and you hate capitalism, why do you participate in it? You have to participate in capitalism. It is the law of the land. You do not have to buy fucking crystals and meditate in the lotus position. That's a choice. So, again, that criticism of, if you're better than this, why are you doing it, stands. It's not the same as the capitalism, socialism argument. Just wanted to say that.
Yeah, fair enough. We have one more, and I think this was this like the first single, Mood Ring?
I think so.
Yeah, so this was the one that I saw the most of, like when the album really started to kind of reach critical mass and was about to come out. Like Mood Ring, I think, was the song that I saw most people talking about, and this is the one where she's really laying into the people that do the crystals and the mood rings and the kind of alternative spirituality, you know, things that people are doing, that are really considered like hippie things, but it's like now it's a lot of people are doing them. There's people on Instagram with millions of followers that this is their whole brand, is stuff like this. Like, it is a mainstream sort of thing now. You know, this is not like oh, it's my weird neighbor a few houses down. She's just this old widowed lady that's, you know, got 15 cats and her house has a bunch of rocks in it. You know what I mean? Like, everybody knows that kind of person, but this is like a new style of that. This is like a mainstream, like, we don't look at that as, well, I look at it as weird, but it's not viewed the same way that it used to be. And she has gotten out her sledgehammer and she is going to town with this song.
There's so many better things to use that vitriol against, because to your point, I have friends that swear by witchy vibes and they're like, oh, I want to cast a little spell and stuff. And I don't even look at that as stupid. I go, that's meaningful to you. That's fine. I'll wear a yarmulke in a synagogue and I will hold the sage during your little thing. I'll hold hands with you during a seance, whatever. I'm open to different experiences. I'm not here to judge you. Am I a better person than Lorde? Apparently already I am. Here's what I want to say about Mood Ring. I'll make this as succinct as I can. I'm going to read off my notes because I think I organized it in a concise way. She describes this as an extremely empathetic attempt to understand why human beings seek answers outside of ourselves in an attempt to connect with the natural world. I call bullshit on extremely empathetic attempt. She did not attempt to be empathetic. So my note, if solipsism says that we cannot know the world outside of our own minds, I find that to be an extremely egocentric view by its very nature. So, if we have people who are seeking to merge with the world outside of themselves and are looking outside of their heads and want to be part of a reality that doesn't only exist in their mind, why is that something to mock? Yes, you have to have faith in yourself. Yes, you need to do things of your own steam. But if you are seeking to join a collective that you know to be real and it's so real that you want to reach out and touch it, why is that a bad thing? Why does that make you full of shit? It is so fucking easy to mock people for shit when all they need is escape. All they need is to make sense of things. All they need is a sense of belonging. It seems to me that desperation is very funny to Lorde, and that fucking sucks. I'm bothered by that. Legitimately, a lot of this has been a bit, but this song fucking put me over the edge. I was like, suck my ass, Lorde. I am done with you. This is the meanest shit I've ever seen.
Yeah, and it really is like, I don't know. And like we talked shit about all those things like horoscopes and crystals and all that. You know, it's
Sure.
like that seems to me as a kind of a weird way to like accomplish what you're trying to do spiritually. But again, like to each their own. Like I may not see much value in that, but to each their own. Like this is, straight up, like this is some Mean Girls stuff. This song, it's just like really ripping into people that, find some value in this. Like whether it really ends up being valuable or not, like I guess only time will tell for in their lives. But it's like, I don't know. I feel like if someone's doing something with positive intentions and truly making an effort to better themselves and the world around them, whatever it is that they're doing, if they're not actively hurting somebody else, and however effective it may be, like, I don't know. It's just like, I can sit here and make fun of it, but it's like, I'm not going to say that they're terrible people for it.
No. And again, like maybe this is hypocritical of me, but if she wanted to make a song punching down at anti-vaxxers, anti-maskers, anti-lockdown people, I would say it's been done to death at this point. It's very played out. Everyone's taken a swing at that. But at least that's attacking a harmful ideology. And again, I'm not even going so far. There's obvious massive overlap with Trump voters. But as we've talked about with like Pony Bradshaw, you can't say that every Trump voter voted along the lines of racism. They had to swallow it to vote for him because he made promises relevant to them, like I'll bring jobs back to coal country. But there's significant overlap with Trump people with anti-mask, anti-vax, QAnon, all that stuff. Irrespective of Trump, those are very dangerous things. It's a public health crisis. We have people, I'm getting up on my soapbox here. We have people who are more scared of a vaccine that hasn't killed anyone than they are a virus that has killed millions. That's a fucking problem. So if she wanted to go, you guys are fucking dumb, and make fun of their line of thinking, it borders on a public service. But to make fun of girls that want to, I guess people, but to specifically make fun of witchy vibes and, my mood ring has to tell me how to feel. It's like, maybe people just like a goddamn mood ring because it's fun. Maybe they don't put all their stock in the goddamn mood ring. How fucking narrow is your worldview that you think that people need a fucking hunk of plastic to tell them what to do? Maybe you do, you fucking grand individual. But how fucking dare you? Why don't you let the rest of us who have to get by on a fucking $1,400 stimulus check or go back and work at the Panera Bread for $5 an hour plus tips? Why don't you let us do whatever the fuck we want? Shut up. Stay in New Zealand. Play with the goddamn hobbits for all I don't give a shit. Leave me alone. Go away, Lord. Go away. Bad Lord.
Well, I can't top that with anything else that I have to say about this album. That was incredible.
I'm perspiring.
That was incredible. You should snip that. That should be a clip somewhere. That was incredible. So I don't know. I'm really on the fence with this one. I'm going to say skip it because it didn't do anything for me. It was better than I thought it was going to be, but it's just like, I don't think anybody's going to get like a life-changing amount of value out of this one.
I'm going to go ahead and stream it. No, I'm fucking kidding. Obviously, throw it in the trash. Steal a copy of this and throw it down the sewer. Don't pay money for this. Find it, take a video of yourself taking a dump on it, light it on fire, launch it into the sun, give Lorde the finger, and post the video to Instagram. I hate this album, and I hate Lorde.
Well, here we are.
Here we are.
50. Episode 50 in the books. Yeah, I mean, is that the first? That's one of the very few that we've had two skip-its. Like that's not great.
She's in fucking walking in the footsteps of giants such as Taylor Swift. If I'm not mistaken, we both said skip Folklore.
Oh, yes.
And I was not even as down on Folklore as you were. I wasn't as down on Taylor Swift as a person. The album was a total miss for me. But I hate Lorde as a person, and I hate this album. Done.
Well, all right. Well, episode 50, folks, plus all of our extra episodes, you could listen to this an episode a week, and it would take you over a year at this point to listen to our entire discography. So that's exciting for us. We also have about halfway through our lifespan as a podcast, we started these little things called singles videos. We have another one that will be out By the time you hear this on Monday, they come out every Thursday. We alternate weeks. So you just hop on there. You see a shorter video. If you don't have time for the full podcast, a lot of people are working from home. It's hard to find time for podcasts these days. But if you don't find the time for the podcast, you have the time for the singles videos. You let us know what you want to hear, both on this podcast and in those singles videos. You'll find us if you search hashtag Out on That Line on YouTube for those singles videos. Make sure you subscribe so that you get notified when those come out. And in the event we ever do any other video content, those will come out as well on that same channel. Let us know on Instagram, Out on That Line, on Twitter, Out on That Line 1. You can send us an email, outonthatline@gmail.com. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, whether it's on YouTube, where all of our full episodes are and get released there every single week, right alongside the ones on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and wherever the hell else, and Anchor, wherever the hell else you get your fine podcasts. We want to know what you want to hear so we can continue through the next 50 episodes, through the next 100 episodes, so we can continue to give the content that you yearn for and that you need.
Amen. We want what you yearn for, and we want what you burn for. And that's basically it.
Until next time.